I call this meeting to order. Welcome to meeting number 76 of the House of Commons Standing Committee on Natural Resources. Today, we meet to discuss the climate crisis and Canada's energy sector, pursuant to the motion adopted on September 18th, 2023. Since today's meeting is taking place in a hybrid format, I would like to make a few comments for the benefit of members and witnesses. Please wait until I recognize you by name before speaking. For those participating by video conference, click on the microphone icon to activate your mic, and please mute yourself when you are not speaking. Interpretation for those on Zoom, you have the choice at the bottom of your screen of either Floor, English, or French. For those in the room, you can use the earpiece and select the desired channel. A reminder that all comments should be addressed through the chair. Additionally, screenshots or taking photos of your screen is not permitted. In accordance with our routine motion, I'm informing the committee that all remote participants have completed the required connection tests in advance of the meeting. I would now like to welcome the witnesses who are with us for the first panel this morning. From Suncor Energy, Mr. Rich Kruger, President and Chief Executive Officer, and Arlene Strom, Chief Sustainability Officer. Welcome to the committee. Thank you for taking the time to appear today. You have 5 minutes for an opening statement. Welcome to the committee. Mr. Kruger, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My objectives today are twofold: to convey how Suncor sees the global energy future, including the role of oil and natural gas in Canada, and to share the action Suncor is taking today to tackle the dual challenge of meeting the world's energy needs while addressing greenhouse gas emissions and climate change. Our world is rapidly changing. Global population is increasing, economies are growing, energy security is threatened by regional conflict, climate change is occurring, and energy demand continues to rise. Affordable and reliable energy is at the center of every human development index: quality of life, life expectancy, education, and income. Energy use and human development are inextricably linked. Where there is a lack of energy, there is a lower quality of life. For more than a century, oil and natural gas have played a transformative role in fueling the world's energy needs, improving living standards, and driving economic growth. However, today, we see rising greenhouse gas emissions, the warming of our planet, and increasingly the concerning effects of climate change. Yet all plausible global energy outlooks forecast oil and gas remaining among the world's largest sources of energy for decades to come, valued for its reliability and versatility. Therein lies the dilemma: effectively and affordably decarbonizing the oil and gas sector, not eliminating it. With among the world's largest reserves, Canada has a major opportunity to lead and prosper by providing low-carbon oil and gas both home and abroad. Having worked in some manner in more than 20 countries during my career, I believe the world benefits from oil and gas produced in Canada more than when produced in most any other country globally. But achieving Canada's energy potential requires a shared vision, including public policy support, technological advances, competitive investments, and effective leadership. In other words, a collective effort is required, between government, industry, and society. Suncor is committed to this effort, being part of the solution by helping to decarbonize Canada's oil and gas sector today and being part of the energy transition tomorrow. Today, we are taking tangible and financially material actions to decarbonize our existing hydrocarbon businesses by investing in low-carbon fuel switching cogeneration capacity at oil sands mining sites, by piloting low-carbon injectant technologies for in-situ operations, by installing electric vehicle charging facilities at Petro-Canada stations coast to coast, by advancing sustainable aviation fuels, and by operating Canada's largest ethanol plant to produce renewable transportation fuels. In each instance, we are putting our money where our mouth is. In addition, we are working with 5 other companies in the Pathways Alliance to pursue large-scale carbon capture and sequestration, supporting our objective of net zero greenhouse gas emissions from our operations by 2050. The alliance involves unprecedented collaboration between industry and multiple levels of government, federal and provincial. In terms of the transition to net zero via non-oil and gas opportunities, we are focused on areas where we have core competencies, such as power generation, renewable fuels, customer delivery systems, large plant operations, and manufacturing processes. Conversely, we are not focused on aspects of energy where we do not have core competencies or relevant experience. We are selective and targeted to ensure we have what it takes to compete and create sustainable opportunities. We are committed to ensuring a profitable, high-performing business today so that we can have a profitable, high-performing, and sustainable business in the future. At Suncor, it's about both today and tomorrow, not one or the other. To my Suncor colleagues, I am proud of what you do, developing Canada's natural resources, providing energy that improves millions of people's lives, bolstering the economy nationwide, providing tens of thousands of well-paying jobs, supporting communities across the country, developing meaningful relationships with Indigenous peoples and businesses, and working together to create a sustainable future. Mr. Chair, I'm ready for your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Kruger, for your opening statement. We'll now go to our first round of questioning, starting with the Conservative Party of Canada, Ms. Shannon Stubbs, for 6 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, witnesses, for being here today. It, of course, is an unignorable fact that we're gathering here one business day after the Supreme Court of Canada ruled that the cornerstone piece of legislation governing the regulation of resource projects and its sweeping and wide net catching many other projects and intervening in jurisdictions. We know that is the case today. It's inescapable that we have you here to answer questions in that context, which demonstrates just how much uncertainty has been created in the last 8 years of this government. Mr. Kruger, you mentioned that you have worked in 20 countries in your long career as an expert in this field. I wonder if you would expand on your perspectives and your comments on the role of Canadian oil and gas in the world, Canada's opportunity both domestically and internationally, and the importance of clarity and certainty for private sector proponents to meet those aims.
I have worked in more than 20 oil and gas producing countries around the globe: Southeast Asia, Middle East, former Soviet Union, West Africa, and North America over the course of my nearly 40-year career. And the last 7 years of my career were here in Canada. And when I look at what I see about not only what we do, but how we do it, whether it's human rights, personnel safety, environmental protection, the responsibility within which this industry applies to developing its natural resource in Canada, I can without hesitation say I believe the world is a better place if the incremental barrel of oil comes from Canada than most anywhere else I've ever worked. I retired 3.5 years ago from the industry, and I chose to come back earlier this year because I believe in the industry, I believe in Canada, I believe in Canadians, and I believe we can punch above our weight by not only lowering the emissions and carbon content of what we produce here and providing it at home, but also providing it abroad.
Thank you. And to your point, the comments that you made about Suncor's commitments to reducing emissions and all of the innovation and investment that Suncor has made, both in terms of being a catalyst 20 years ago for wind and solar operations that are now owned by another proponent, but including also, you just mentioned, continuing to contribute with the largest ethanol plant serving the entire country. I wonder if you do want to expand and clarify more about the comments and your actual perspective and Suncor's position in terms of its core businesses and also all its contributions to improved environmental stewardship and innovation in the future.
Well, thank you. Our view of the future and our commitments haven't changed. Our commitments to decarbonizing our existing base hydrocarbon business and our commitments to being a part of the longer-term transition, over time. And I appreciate the question because I think part of the basis upon which I was called here today dealt with comments that I made in August on an investor call. And the analogy I would use of what my comments said is when I was coming out of retirement, going to come back to work, I went to my family doctor and said, I'm going to give up some years of my life to work again. I want to live a long and healthy life. What's the best advice you can have? He said, to live a long and healthy life, take care of yourself today. My comments on our earnings call looked at our company and said, for us to be a part of the solution for the long term, we have to do today's business very well. And if you look back at the track record over the last several years of Suncor, that can't be said. We have opportunities to improve the safety, the operational integrity of our business so that we can continue our decarbonization efforts and being part of the transition for the longer term. So when I made a comment, I think explicitly I said we have a bit of a disproportionate emphasis on the future. It was to ensure we're strong today so we can be strong tomorrow. Our commitments on decarbonization and being part of the transition have not changed at all since I've taken over in this position 6 months ago.
Thank you for that clarification. Do you have any additional comments, particularly juxtaposing the Canadian policy and fiscal and regulatory framework around energy and resource development against, for example, Canada's biggest competitor and customer, the United States, as well as other of the, say, top 10 major energy-producing regimes around the world, the majority of which, of course, are state-directed regimes. Do you have any comments about the importance or the damage, for example, of after 8 years, the combination of policy uncertainty, but also what has become a layering and layering of taxes and bans and standards and hammers with almost no incentives, and what that does to Canada's competitiveness and the role that we can play to secure energy self-sufficiency and security for our own citizens, as well as play that crucial and I think moral obligation Canada has internationally to provide both our technology and our best produced products to other countries around the world.
Well, yeah, I think there's a lot to that question, so let me step back. I think, one of the things capital markets look for is a reasonable return for a reasonable risk. And when you think of what's important to capital markets and major investments, we look for a level of predictability and stability, or certainty. If the hurdle is set a certain height, that's fine. We just want to know that it's not a moving target. And I think one of the challenges that we face here and have faced here for some time now is a bit of the unpredictability and uncertainty, which then it is, quite frankly, it scares away capital. And with the resources and the opportunity I think the country has, and with the what I believe a leadership position we can take both home and abroad, I applaud any efforts to get a greater level of predictability, certainty, so those of us that participate in the capital markets can do what we do best, bring technology, bring investment dollars to develop the resources of this great country.
Mr. Kruger, thank you. That's over the time allotment, and we'll move to the next round of questions. Mr. Aldag from the Liberal Party.
Great, thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Kruger, Ms. Strom, thank you for being here today. I was really interested when I saw the comments you mentioned that appeared in the media in August from some interviews that you've done. I think that as somebody who has followed Western Canada's energy sector for a number of years, Suncor was always seen as a leader in the sustainable energy area. And so I think, I was really surprised. I think a lot of Canadians were surprised to see the what I would consider a fairly aggressive moving away from some of those businesses, wind and solar, that had been developed over the years. And so I'd like to try and understand what you see as the future for energy in Canada. You'd mentioned in your opening comments about oil and gas having a long horizon, yet I've seen comments that we're going to see oil and gas peak within the next decade and then start declining. And but it seems like you're kind of doubling down right now and trying to get every last dollar out of that oil and gas sector. So where do you see us going as far as traditional oil and gas compared to renewables? And so that's kind of the first part of the question. And then the second part is, where does Suncor fit into that and this new vision that you seem to be putting out for the company?
Yeah, I think, let me start with the oil and gas. There are a lot of various outlooks, whether and when it's going to peak and things. But I think the important thing to realize is oil and gas is a depletable resource. So if we do nothing, the world does nothing, there is depending on gas, it may be a 5% per year, oil, it may be 7% per year, natural decline. So just to continue at today's demand levels requires ongoing investment. And I think the question for me is, where will that investment be made? If the demand is there, I believe whether as a country, whether we choose to produce one less barrel, that the world won't necessarily consume less barrels. So I think it's the opportunity, where does Canada compete in the oil and gas sector? And my belief is that with efforts we're undertaking, whether I mentioned pathways, blending renewable fuels, that we can continue to compete in that sector. So I think oil and gas has a long life ahead of it. It's how we do it that will make it both more socially acceptable and more socially acceptable within Canada. Now, renewables. I think renewables have a huge role and a growing role in the energy equation. Global energy demand continues to increase, and I don't think there's any one energy source that will meet that. So I think it's not a either or, it's an and equation, whether that's renewables, whether that's continued oil and gas or hydrocarbon investments. So Suncor, we plan to be around a long time. We've been around a long time. We're a big company, a prominent company in the country. We plan to continue that. We plan to not only continue to extract value from our existing businesses, but grow new businesses. So where are we good at? You mentioned solar. If you look at over time, we were a pioneer and we got into wind and solar about 20 years ago. At almost the exact same time, we built a $250 million renewable fuels and ethanol plant, which is Canada's largest ethanol plant today. It provides renewable fuels for our coast-to-coast network of Petro-Canada sites. A year ago, before I arrived, the decision was made to sell the wind and solar business to parties that the company thought could operate it better than we do. But at the same time, we're investing in our renewable facility sites because we think that's what we're good at. So it's a question of picking those things that you're best at as you participate in the transition.
And I would say that it's, when you talk socially acceptable, I'm a member of Parliament from British Columbia, where we have fires and floods, and climate change is very much, real and upon us. And when you talked about socially acceptable, one of the discussions I hear about, these massive profits that the oil and sector are generating right now. In one of the articles, it talked about Suncor, second quarter, $1.88 billion of earnings and $4 billion in the same period last year. And yet, I think Canadians are asking, and my constituents for sure are asking, where are those profits going and helping us to deal with climate change and the effects of climate change? The sector that you're in have had very real impacts on the planet and continue to. And so how do you see, investments, what are the next round of investments that are going to be made to help reduce those impacts and get us to the net zero economy that we need by 2050? I guess that's the other question. Is Suncor still committed to that transition to 2050? And where will the next round of investments go? Because what we're doing right now is simply not enough to get us there.
Well, I think, are you through, sir? I think your question's a good one in terms of, our industry, the nature of, we're a big company, it's big dollars. And I'll give you a few numbers to tie in. Over the last 3 years, take three full years, we've made, in total, $9 billion in profits over 3 years. We've paid $10 billion in income taxes and royalties to federal and provincial governments to build bridges and hospitals and schools. We've invested over those same 3 years $13 billion, more than we've made. Some of it is to maintain the health and well-being of our existing businesses, the safety and operational integrity, environmental responsibility, and an increasing share of it is going to new businesses. Last year, we spent $540 million on decarbonization projects. So I think, we are a industry and a company where the numbers are big, but when you break them down and you look at, we pay more than 50% of what we make every year, proud to do it, in taxes and royalties. And we're investing back not only to maintain our existing business, but to create those new businesses that I think we would agree are important to the country.
I would have
Thank
liked
you.
to have gone into more of the decarbonization discussion, but the
Thank you,
chair
Mr.
is telling
Kruger.
we need to move
Okay.
on.
And I should have said in advance, yellow card is 30-second warning, red is time's up. My apologies.
Work off of you which hand they're in then.
We'll now move to Monsieur Simard from the Bloc Québécois for 6 minutes.
Merci.
Thank you, Georges. We share something in common. I also am colorblind. So, Mr. Kruger, in your presentation earlier, you talked about your vision for the future and the measures that have been taken by Suncor. And perhaps I don't agree with you, but you have a willingness to decarbonize oil and gas sector. It seems to be a firm one. Is that correct? Do we agree on that?
One of our priorities is to continue to decarbonize our existing hydrocarbon businesses.
Sorry, perhaps I was a bit too quick because I don't have much time. But you also talked about a fuel mix and carbon capture and storage strategies. And I've got a question where I'd like a clear answer. Do you agree with the Clean Fuels Regulation?
The question, do I agree with the Clean Fuels Regulation? I've not studied the regulation in my 6 months in the job here, but what I would say is whether it's at our Petro-Canada sites or anywhere else, we comply with all regulations that are there. So in terms of agree or disagree, I don't know that that's so much as relevant as that as a company, we believe in reducing the carbon footprint and the
Parfait, je comprends tout à
emissions.
fait. Quand vous parlez de...
Perfect. When you talk about a fuel mix, is that not what you're referring to? The fact that there can be a certain portion of fuel that is less carbon intensive?
I think two things. There's the energy mix broadly, all different types of energy. If you're talking explicitly fuel, transportation fuels, and aviation fuels, what our priority is to continue to bring an increasing renewable component to those fuel supplies.
Merci, je comprends bien.
Thank you very much. I've understood that. And you'll see where I'm heading with this in a minute. We've said that the Clean Fuels Regulation will have an impact, and it's the consumers that are going to pay at the pump, because there have been costs also for the oil producers. But when it comes to the Pathways Alliance, the costs that are associated with decarbonising the oil and gas sector are actually enormous. We're talking about $24 billion in investment. Who are you going to pass this bill on to? Are you going to pass it on to consumers? And I wonder whether clean oil is actually profitable if we don't have funds coming in from the government. Because when we're talking about the Clean Fuels Regulation, which is a simple one, but certain people, including my Conservative colleagues, that the bill is going to be passed on to consumers, then I'm convinced that the bill, which is linked to your carbon and capture strategies, will also be passed on to consumers. Do you agree with me on that?
I think there's two different things. When you talk about consumers, we're talking about retail or aviation. On a Pathways, we're talking about upstream competitiveness. Will Canadian oil and gas production be competitive because oil and gas is a global market, where it comes from and where it's consumed. So on the Pathways work, which I think is quite frankly, I think it's a brilliant strategy. It's about a public-private partnership that enables the decarbonization of Canada's hydrocarbon reserves so that companies and Canadians nationwide can continue to benefit from this resource that we've been blessed with.
Je comprends bien, mais
Yes, I really understand that. But you'll see, on several occasions, you've referred to the competitiveness aspect and that you need to be competitive. If you add costs, you're less competitive. And if you have to pay for achieving net zero by 2050 and have this neutral carbon footprint by 2050, you're going to be less competitive. Somebody has to pay for all this. Do you agree with me on that?
Well, I think when it comes to competitiveness, if you Canada, quite frankly, in the oil and gas world, is a high-cost jurisdiction. We have naturally higher costs, and that relates to all the way from where we are, the type of operations we conduct, tax.
Je vais être plus clair.
Sorry, I'll be even clearer then. And perhaps you can answer yes or no. So, oil that's produced with the carbon capture strategy, is it more expensive than oil that's produced without this carbon capture strategy?
It depends. That's one component of cost. So when you look at whether it's more costly or not, it depends on all of the other components of cost. And that's where we look at what can we do to offset increasing costs? Can we bring a greater efficiency, a greater productivity, new technology into it? The answer, it depends. Because does it add a cost? Absolutely. Can the cost be offset to maintain global competitiveness? That's the question.
Est-ce qu'on peut pas appliquer la même logique?
Can we not apply the same logic to the clean fuels regulation? The same logic could be applied to that too, don't you think?
Oh, I think that's what we try to do each and every day. Whether it's looking at how we run our operations more efficiently to try to be more and more competitive so we can provide affordable, reliable fuels to Canadians nationwide and do it in such a way where as a company we can also run a profitable company.
Rapidement, puis peut-être qu'on pourra y revenir.
Now, quickly, and perhaps we can come back to this. What is the difference for you between the clean fuels regulation and the investments that you're planning to do to reduce the carbon intensity of the oil and gas sector? What's the difference between these two?
I think I'll go back to what I said earlier. I haven't studied up on the clean fuels regulations. I've come in and what we do is we comply and we provide fuels that meets the regulations. So I could go back and forth with you, but I don't know if I'd give you the clarity of the answer that you appear to be seeking.
Thank you, Mr. Kruger. We'll now move to Mr. Angus from the New Democratic Party for 6 minutes.
Thank you so much, Chair. Thank you so much, Mr. Kruger, Madame Strom, for coming today. It's October, and Canada is still burning out of control. We have never seen anything like this, and people are trying to come up with language to describe the impacts. Would you say that it has been a catastrophic year for climate-induced wildfire and flood?
It's been a tragic year, and I think it's horrible what Canadians across this great country have experienced. I think we would say that. I think you're picking words. I would say it's been a tragic year for those involved.
Fair play. So you've been around the boardroom, Suncor, Imperial, you're former vice president of Exxon. Questions of liability are stuff that you guys talk about. So how much responsibility is your industry willing to take for the destabilized climate and the climate crisis that has forced 200,000 people out of their homes this summer?
Mr. Angus, I can obviously sense your passion on this. I think global energy and greenhouse gas emissions and climate change are complex issues that are important to our society, and we all have a role in it, whether that's government, whether that's industry, and whether that's society. So, I share your passion and concern on the topic, but I don't think it's what fraction is one party versus the other.
Okay, I certainly passionate. We had so many people evacuated. They were having to escape by canoe this summer from wildfires in James Bay, which has never seen that before. So we are passionate. But I guess I question, because you're a former vice president of Exxon, and I'm looking here at some of your Exxon documents, that your internal scientific reports warned that it would be, quote, indeed catastrophic for a substantial fraction of the world's population if you didn't change course. A year later, your company, and you were on the management team, stated that prepared a briefing that again used the word catastrophic in terms of what you were doing. So what are the legal liabilities you think that your company and your involvement is for having suppressed that scientific evidence, that it's not just we're all part of this, you knew scientifically that what you were doing was destabilizing the planet?
Well, you have the advantage of looking at documents that I haven't seen.
I will give them to you.
Can I finish my reply?
Absolutely.
I did work for Exxon for 31 years around the globe in production operations and projects. I never worked in strategy or research. So, but if you have questions about what Exxon knew and when, they're probably best addressed to Exxon.
That's a good point. I
Mr.
mean,
Chair, point of order. Point of
right
order.
now, there's the
Yeah, point of order.
lawsuits.
You know, of course, they're talking about time that would be like close to sort of when I was just born. So I don't know the back and forth that's going on here about whatever was done in Exxon 30 years ago. But I guess I would have been a teenager. Yeah, Botox helps. Botox is helping. But I just might ask, Chair, if we could keep the questions on the topic of the motion, which is the purpose we're all here today for this meeting, which was moved by our colleague Charlie Angus. So perhaps he can just stay on the topic of the motion.
Mr. Angus, the floor is yours. Please continue with your questioning in line with the topic at hand today.
I'm certainly very close on the topic at hand. Well, I guess if you're saying I should talk to Exxon, right now the lawsuits against your industry are in the hundreds, and there's a pretty damning one against Suncor in Colorado. And you're saying I've got documents you haven't been able to read. I'll give you the documents. These are all the documents from your company. But part of it is about liability, and this is what I'm really interested in here, is that Exxon, when you were vice president, released a statement saying taking drastic action is unnecessary because the indications are that a warmer world would be more benign and warming will reduce mortality rates in the United States. That's a false statement. So today we have a letter from the Canadian medical doctors to the government stating that there's 1 in 7 premature deaths in Canada are now related to fossil fuel air pollution. So would you say that your industry is at a higher risk of these kind of lawsuits that are proliferating for having known the damages and refused to do something about it and refusing to tell the public that they were at risk?
I'd reiterate, the last I worked for Exxon was about 10 years ago. So your Exxon comments, if you want to talk about Exxon, I'm no longer the one to talk about. In terms of our
Could we
industry,
talk about Suncor, that you're being sued by
that's
Colorado?
actually why I thought I came here today.
Yeah.
I won't talk about active lawsuits. Oh, they're
Play,
if I go where I said earlier, what I think is important here, the importance of these issues, energy for people, for our quality of life, and doing it in such a way that's compatible with the long-term health and well-being of our climate. That's why we're here. That's why you're in your position. It's why I'm in my position
Absolutely.
to work together to address these critical
My concern,
issues.
Mr. Kruger, is that the evidence coming forward is that your industry knew that increasing production and increasing the burning of fossil fuels is destabilizing the planet. I've had people evacuated, people who cannot go home. We've had people lose their properties because of this, and we have the evidence that your industry knew. And so I'm amazed that this is all new to you, because it's a question of liability. And I noticed, for example, I can change subjects here if you don't mind, that there's a complaint at the Alberta Securities Commission that you've dropped the issue of liability to investors. Right now, this is a very concerning question, because the International Energy Agency has put out a report telling us as legislators not to put more investments in because of stranded assets, and yet since you've taken over Suncor, dropped the issues of liabilities. Do you not have an obligation to make sure that the public is aware of the risks and liabilities of further investments and of the damage that's being done to the planet that your industry has known about since the beginning?
Well, first of all, you're referencing, for others, you're referencing a Greenpeace complaint put in front of the Alberta Securities Commission
that make it irrelevant?
that is inaccurate.
But have you dropped your
Complaint-
liabilities?
No.
You haven't?
They're still contained within the report. And all of the obligatory liabilities and risk are reported, and this is a voluntary report, and it's in there. It happens to be in a different area that apparently wasn't read.
So
but
do you
it hasn't
believe that you
changed.
are at higher risk of
Thank
liability?
you. Thank you, Mr. Angus, and thank you, Mr. Kruger. The time is up, and we'll move to our next round for 5 minutes, Mr. Patzer.
Well, thank you very much for coming today, Mr. Kruger. And I just off the top would like to apologize to you on behalf of Canadians for wasting some of your time here. I mean, we look at the motion that we have before us today, and we have these people over here bringing up issues that aren't even relevant to the motion at hand or what you were actually called for here today. So on that fact, I just would like to start, Mr. Kruger. You had you were asked a question and you were starting to answer on the higher costs associated with producing oil or producing fuels as well in Canada, and you were cut off before you could finish that answer. I'm just wondering if you can just lay out on the table here for this committee what some of those higher costs are, and maybe what some costs we have here in Canada that other jurisdictions around the world that you compete with don't have, so that way we can get a good grasp and understanding of what's happening, so that way a company like yours who's trying to be competitive today but can also be relevant in the future.
I go back to some of the comments I made earlier. Oil and gas is fundamentally a global commodity. It's produced around the world, it's consumed around the world. So when you compete in a commodity market, it's about your ability to supply costs. And in Canada, some of the areas where it's higher costs relate to where we are, the types of climates, environments that we operate in. That's a part of it. The resource that we develop, that's part of it. But it also then becomes taxes and royalties and other charges that are applied. And I would say that in a relative sense, we're on the higher side of that curve in terms of whether it's income taxes, carbon taxes, whatever. So as an industry, what we need to do to be competitive and relevant in Canada is to find ways to improve our operations and offset those costs. Because our goal, we're predominantly a Canadian company, and we want to thrive and grow here for the long term. So we have to bring new technology in. We have to do things that make us better to allow us to compete.
Yeah, and we heard earlier about some of the numbers of you talked about for investments in new technologies, right? And I think, at least on this side of the table here, I think we all agree that that's the absolute appropriate approach to take. Technology, not taxes. I mean, that's a common tagline that you've probably heard us say over and over again from our side. I'm just wondering if you just wanted to just tell us what some of these technologies are that you're operating in, what you would like to see going forward in order to make investments in that technology actually work and be sustainable for you guys.
I think some of the ones we're spending right now, $1.5 billion in converting in our oil sands mining sites from using coke as a fuel source to provide heat and steam for our operations to natural gas. So that's a fuel switching, and it has a significant reduction in carbon emissions. In our in situ operations, the operations that drill wells and produce from reservoirs, we're spending several $100 million right now on pilot work to looking at introducing solvents as opposed to steam, again, to dramatically reduce the carbon content. I commented on at St. Clair, we have a renewable fuels, an ethanol plant, the country's largest. We're looking at what we can do to further expand or improve that operation. So I think it's across the board to base business better and to grow new renewables businesses is where we're focused.
So it'd be fair to say then that you've done a lot of this before government mandates have taken effect. I'll just preface that by saying, Suncor built one of the first wind farms in Saskatchewan 20 years ago. You guys have been making these investments without the government mandating things or putting arbitrary targets in front of you. Is that correct?
Well, we think it's two things. It's good for business, and it's the right thing to do. And when those things can overlap, we are sufficiently incentivized to spend money to research and to pursue new business opportunities. And we do think the decarbonization of our existing hydrocarbon business and looking for new alternate fuel sources, energy sources, is quite frankly just good business.
You guys are working to achieve net zero GHG emissions from your operations by 2050. So just wondering if you just want to just elaborate on that point here, maybe just a little bit here at the very end. I mean, you've made some statements on that to clarify what other people have said, other people made misleading statements about what you have said. I'm just wondering if you have any more comments on that.
To say that our commitments haven't changed in that. We've got targets for 2030. We've got the commitments for 2050. We're collaborating with others in industry to achieve those. And I guess the lesson learned for me in this is if anything I've said is misinterpreted, I have a responsibility to ensure that for my employees, for my customers, for folks in this room, to be sure that we're clear. And for clarity, Suncor remains committed to reducing and decarbonizing its existing hydrocarbon business and being a part of the longer-term energy transition for the future.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kruger. We'll now move to Mr. Bruson for 5 minutes.
Thank you, and thank you for being here, Mr. Kruger. My first question is, my understanding is that Suncor has committed to reaching net zero by 2050. Is that correct?
Yes.
And what metrics are you using to measure that? How are you measuring, tracking, and reporting to the public your progress in that regard?
Well, it's Scope 1 and Scope 2 emissions. So we report routinely in our sustainability report, which we've now put out for 25 plus years, and our climate report, which is 6 plus years, the emissions from our operation on an operated basis, on an equity basis, and we detail at length the actions we're taking, whether it's fuel switching, whether it's renewables and blending. So we are measuring those and reporting them actively, publicly, each and every year, and have been for some time.
Part of the reason I'm asking that is my understanding is that you had a chief sustainability officer.
She's sitting right next to me.
Right. And my understanding is that that position is not going to continue. Am I correct?
No, you're incorrect. And I'm glad you said this because she's right next to me. And I also had read that I had let her go. And I did not let her go. She's down the hall from me, and I value her greatly. And she is choosing to retire after a very successful 20-year career. And someone she has mentored for the last 5 years will be our chief sustainability officer as she retires. So I appreciate you bringing that up because that is incorrect.
No, and I appreciate that clarification. Good to give a hug. So the thing is, I heard you earlier talking about how you went to see your doctor. You were talking about, how do you take care of yourself? How do you, and your doctor's advice was take care of yourself today. And that kind of stuck with me because, when I'm thinking about Canadians and thinking about taking care of themselves today, I think about the fact that we have seen people even from Fort McMurray literally fleeing wildfires. Like their homes have been burned. They have faced massive upheaval from natural disasters. And this summer, we've seen it right across our country. We've seen wildfires, we've seen hurricanes, we've seen droughts and flooding. And at the time of the statement that you made, which really triggered this study, there were literally people fleeing Yellowknife, going right by oil sands to flee for safety further south in Alberta. And so I wonder if perhaps you can say, do you understand at least that saying in that time that there was a need for a change of tone and direction didn't feel like taking care of ourselves in that moment? Wouldn't you agree?
Well, I think, I guess I'd be curious if who actually here listened to or actually read what I had to say. Because I think if you did that, I don't think I'd be asked this question. Now, that said, I want to emphasize, my empathy for the people that have suffered the loss. It's been horrible, no question about it. So I don't mean to be, don't mean to be dismissive of that at all. But when I look at what I said about the importance of being strong, it's safe for my employees, environmentally responsible today, so we can be a part of the future, I continue to stand by those comments. Now, obviously, that I'm here and how they were interpreted, that was never the intent at all. We plan to be part of the solution to this for Canada, for Canadians, for the future.
And so knowing that in Canada, what we're facing when we're talking about emissions, oil and gas is the largest source of emissions in our country. It's at the top. And I think our government's been clear that emissions is what we're after because that's what the planet sees, emissions. When you're looking at that, when you're looking at the natural disasters that we're facing across our country, do you not believe that as a responsible corporate citizen, one of your top priorities must be to be driving down emissions quickly and looking, you talk about energy, looking at all forms of energy that we can be using that are going to be driving down emissions.
Oh, I do believe that is a responsibility, a commitment, and that hasn't changed. That's why in my opening comments, when I detailed the literally hundreds of millions of dollars we are spending a year to do that, that's why. Because I think it's good for business and it's the right thing to do.
Thank you.
We're in agreement.
Thank you, Mr. Kruger. Thank you, Mr. Bruson. Now we'll go to Monsieur Simard for 2.5 minutes.
Merci.
Thank you very much. Mr. Kruger, I must admit that I'm rather confused. Earlier, I referred to the Clean Fuels Regulation, which applies to your sector of activity, and you said, well, I haven't analysed this, I'm not really aware of this. It seems to me that if a regulation applied to a sector of activity in which I was involved, I would be getting interested in this. So that's the first thing that confuses me. And secondly, I know that this clean fuel regulation will have an impact on your cost of production, but I also know that this impact on your production costs, of course, has to line up with your will to decarbonise the sector. So that means that either your will and the will of the Pathways Alliance to decarbonise this sector is just smoke and mirrors and it's just eco-washing and you want to continue to produce oil, or else you're not a great manager because you haven't actually taken the time to look at these clean fuel regulations they're going to apply from the Government of Canada. Can you please explain this to me?
I'm not sure what the question is there. I'll gladly comment on it, and the judgment of whether I'm a great manager or not, I guess that's for someone else to determine. I'm very aware of the clean fuels regulations. What I said is we are complying with them, and in terms of analyzing them, and you're linking pathways and clean fuel regulations, and I have to admit, maybe this is my gap. I'm not quite sure the two of those. Pathways relates to providing...
Le lien est assez simple.
The link is quite a simple one, sir. It's a simple link. The link is because we're trying to reduce the intensity of emissions in your sector of activity, and what you're trying to do with the carbon capture strategies is to get net zero by 2050, and with the clean fuel regulations we want to reduce the intensity of emissions. So why would you refuse a solution that would be less costly via the clean fuel regulations, but on the other hand, you'd go towards a strategy where 10% apparently of your capital expenditure would be there to reduce your carbon footprint. So I don't understand this. I see the impact on your production cost when it comes to developing your carbon capture strategy as exponential, very high costs. But you seem to think that's a logical approach. But on the other hand, when it comes to the clean fuel regulations, you seem to think that's illogical. So to come back to what I said earlier.
But it does also sound like my colleague actually doesn't understand the differences between upstream and
Oui,
downstream.
j'interviens pas.
And the different aspects of each of the policy, but maybe we can stay on
J'interviens
topic.
pas. Non. Attendez un peu.
No, just a moment. I'd like to finish what I started. I don't butt in when my colleagues are talking. I show a minimum of respect, and I'd ask for a minimum of respect as well. The day when they stop behaving as oil and gas lobbyists, then they'll be able to take the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Kruger. Time is up. I would ask all members not to talk over each other because it is very difficult for the interpreters at trying to interpret in two different languages. And if we can make our comments and statement and give the opportunity for the witnesses to respond, but time was up. You may get a chance, I guess, through further conversation to be able to provide comments to that. Thank you, Mr. Simard. We'll move over to Mr. Angus for 2.5 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. I'm only married to an Albertan, so I'm going to turn the floor over to someone who is an Albertan.
Thank you, Mr. Angus. I am an Albertan, and I'm a mother. And I agree with some of the testimony that the oil and gas sector has contributed greatly to the Canadian economy. But I will say it's been decades since we have known that it is also boiling our planet. Mr. Kruger, Suncor's profits last year, not revenues, profits last year were more than $27 billion. And it looks like it's going to be another year for record profits this year with over $5 billion profits recorded for the second quarter alone. And yet, you cut contracts with Canadian companies last year and are laying off another 1,500 workers this year. How many of those contractors and how many of those workers were Albertan?
I will gladly answer your question, but at first I have to correct something. Our profits last year were not the numbers you quoted. They're publicly reported. Our profits over the last...
That's where we got those numbers, sir. But regardless, in the billions, the profits were in the billions. How many Albertans will lose their jobs because of your massive profits, but the cuts to workers?
Well, first of all, what you're referring to is we are going through a reduction in 1,500 people, workers this year. And it's certainly not pleasant. It's not anything you want to do with employees. You're affecting people's lives and their livelihoods.
I just asked how many were Albertans, sir.
I don't have the in Alberta. I can get it province by province if you'd like it.
I would certainly like that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Are you planning to cut your investment in Alberta even further? And how many more Canadians do you anticipate will lose their jobs over the next 5 years?
Our investments will look at where they go to the highest and best use, whatever province they happen to be in. And so it's not about, in fact, if anything, we're spending more money in Alberta this year than certainly we have any of the last 3 years. I know that for a fact.
I didn't ask how much money you're spending. I asked how many jobs you anticipated losing in Alberta in the next 5 years. But I also want to know, these record profits that we have, where are your shareholders located and how many of them are Canadian?
Our shareholders are tens of thousands of Canadian families, men and women who rely on our stock performance to fund their RSPs,
what
their
percentage
pensions.
is
I'll
Canadians?
finish my question. The vast majority of
that's not a percentage.
52%.
52% is the vast majority.
Yeah, compared to any other jurisdiction.
Thank
yes.
you.
Wow.
Thank you. Time is up. 2.5 minutes goes very quick. I'll now go to Mr. Dreeshen for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and honored to be here to listen to what you have to say, Mr. Kruger. A couple of the things that I really wanted to talk about. I know that the energy sector takes a lot of punishment from our environmental activist sector. As an Albertan and someone who's proud of the contributions and the progress the energy sector has made in terms of reducing emissions and developing cutting-edge technology, it always pains me that we need to fight so hard for something that our global allies are begging for in order to stabilize their energy needs. And we do a pretty poor job of tracking full life cycle impacts of energy developments. So I find it hard to believe that our government truly has a grip on what our position is. And you spoke of the wind projects that you have. Earlier, we had folks from ATCO, and I had asked the question about how much money is set aside once these plants are decommissioned so that that we know that the sites are going to remain environmentally friendly and so on. So I'm wondering if you have that number from the plants that you have in Alberta.
And I'm sorry, sir, just to be sure, when you mentioned wind and solar, but just more broadly, any of our operations?
Any of your operations, how much have you set aside for the reclamation and so on for the energy projects, the renewable energy projects that you have?
Oh, the renewable. In Alberta, our renewable energy projects are fundamentally associated with our oil and gas operations, reducing the carbon content. So any reclamation would be woven in with the overall, whether that's in the mining or the mining sector or the in situ. So, sir, I don't have numbers offhand for you.
No, and I appreciate that. The point that I wanted to make is that there are companies that are paying attention to that. And I appreciate that is what you do. The other question that I have, and you sort of alluded to it, there's over $5 billion in equity partnerships with Indigenous communities. And people seem to forget that our oil and gas industry is working hand in glove with our Indigenous communities. And the fear that many of them have is that as they invest and when they listen to the rhetoric that comes from this federal government, is that those may end up becoming stranded assets. And that's going to be the same issue that your that your investors have. So I'm just wondering what kind of certainty you have for us to be able to continue with with our Indigenous relationships.
You bring up a topic that's very important to me. We, and just a couple of statistics, about 5.5% of our workforce are Indigenous. Last year, we did $3.1 billion with Indigenous-owned businesses, and both of those numbers are growing over time. And I think this is a huge opportunity to participate, not only do what's right for the communities within which we operate, but also do what, quite frankly, what's right for the country. Over time, we had Ms. Strom organized it, and we had a National Day of Truth and Reconciliation a few weeks ago in the office. We had 3 elders with us. We had our Indigenous board member facilitated that. And I think as a leader of a company, I have a huge responsibility here, not just to provide jobs and to provide business opportunities, but to go deeper than that, to see where there can be true partnerships and collaboration. In this company, I'm very, very proud of what this company has done and continues to do in that area.
Often when we go to other places in the world and we hear about how this government is positioning itself as far as carbon taxes and emissions control, there are places in Europe, of course, that the governments, they stand up and say, yeah, we're right on side, we're ready to work with you. However, that's not the reality on the ground. And we see, because of what has taken place in Europe and Ukraine, we see that there's a requirement for the old energy mixes so that they are not dependent upon Russian oil and gas. I'm just wondering if you can comment on some of the changes that you see globally with regards to the need for reliable and safe energy from Canada or from anywhere else other than those that are conflict-based countries.
Well, I think in the, certainly in the last year or more, we've seen the risk to global security because of energy security. And I think that we create a stronger, safer world when we become interdependent. And here's where I think, again, Canada can punch above its weight by providing lower carbon energy to more and more people around the world. I think it's a huge opportunity for us as a country, and it's one that I would like to be a part of.
Thank you, Mr. Deschamps. Thank you, Mr. Kruger. We'll now go to our last round of questioning by Ms. Lapointe. 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Kruger, in your opening remarks, you said where there's a lack of energy, there is a lower quality of life. And I was pleased to hear that people's quality of life is important to you. And I assume that would extend to your employees. However, workplace safety reports would indicate there is a problem at Suncor on this front. There have been 6 workplace fatalities since 2020 and 30-plus safety violations. I'm MP for Sudbury. We're a mining town where workplace safety is extremely important to us, and fatalities or accidents can lead to fatalities. So can you please tell us what steps you've taken to ensure workplace safety for your employees?
I can, and thank you. I would say it is one of, I share your commitment, your passion, the importance of that. I look at providing a safe workplace as fundamentally a moral responsibility that I have. And when I've looked at the recent years of the company, I find it, to be, quite sad in many, many regards. It is a top priority to me. So, for example, one of the bases for me being called here today is on an earnings call. I talked about focusing on the fundamentals. The fundamentals starts with personnel safety to me. On July 7th of this year, I talked to the father of a young man who lost his life in our operation July 7th a year ago, and I promised him that I would put the safety of our employees at the top of my list at all times. So we're taking a lot of steps there, and it starts with me. It starts with leadership, the commitment to it, not asking anyone to do anything that I wouldn't do myself or I wouldn't ask any of my children to do. So I've got a lot of passion on safety because I think it is it's where it all starts. We're not allowed. We shouldn't, without a safe workplace, we shouldn't have any other priorities than safety.
Can you describe for us some specific steps that are being taken?
Some of the things, yeah, I think, leadership, I think, is for an example, but some of the things we're doing, most of the incidents you referred to are in our mining operations. So we're using technology. We're putting collision avoidance systems and operator fatigue systems, literally technology on each and every piece of mobile equipment that can help us run a safer workplace. I think those are two big areas.
We've talked a lot today about goals and targets, and I believe R&D plays a very crucial role in being able to accelerate in meeting those goals. So can you elaborate on Suncor's plans for investing in research and development of new technologies or innovative solutions to address the environmental concerns related to the oil sands industry?
I think our greatest focus areas are in decarbonizing. I think that's an area. And for us, because of the nature of our business, is tailings ponds and water management. Those are two areas where we put a great deal of time and attention. We conduct some independent research on our own, but we also collaborate in these areas to try to get the biggest, the most effective ideas wherever they may come from. Those are two particular areas that are high on our research and development priority.
I had actually two groups on two separate occasions come in front of my constituency office in Sudbury over the summer to lobby for oil and gas cap. So it's of great interest to people in my constituencies. I also have received calls and emails on it. So I am asking in a very genuine way, could you elaborate on how Suncor sees itself on playing a supporting role in Canada's transition to a low-carbon economy, and how you envision the company's contribution towards this?
Well, I think it gets back to, some of the things I said in my opening comment. I think it's really twofold. It is continuing to decarbonize, reduce the carbon content of our fundamental base businesses, whether that's the upstream or through our refining sector. And then I think it is continuing to bring about what new technologies, whether that would be renewable fuels, whether that would be fuel switching, to drive the carbon emissions out of our business. And for me, it does two things. It's the right thing to do to participate as a citizen of our planet, but it also is what's required to enable us to continue to be competitive in Canada. So it's to me, those line up quite well in terms of a priority.
Mr. Chair, is that the end of our round?
It is.
If you could give me the floor for 1 second. I had spoken with our colleague Elizabeth May from the Green Party prior to this meeting. She had inquired about whether she would be able to ask any questions, so I'm going to ask for unanimous consent to give her a 5-minute slot to participate.
No.
Chair, I would, but there may be bells, and I really don't want to lose the witness testimony of our next
Thank you,
round.
Mr. Aldag. And
I would say we have to
Yeah, I agree with Mr. Angus, and I'm just so sad about it because, of course, Elizabeth May and I agreed completely on all the problems with the project list in C-69, which, as you know, the Supreme Court came out on Friday saying that Elizabeth May and I were right, although we have opposing worldviews on exactly that. So it would have been great if people had listened before the passage of that half a decade of an unconstitutional law.
Colleagues, I would ask everybody to, once again, sorry, Mr. Aldag, we do not have unanimous consent. Unfortunately, Ms. May, you do not have time today, hopefully at another time. Mr. Kruger and Ms. Strom, thank you so much for joining our committee today and providing testimony. I hope we'll have an opportunity to see you again sometime in the future, and thank you so much. Colleagues, we'll now suspend, and so we can get it set up for our next panel. to order. I will now welcome the witnesses who are with us for the second panel today. We will start with opening statements from Monsieur Charles Séguin, Associate Professor, Université du Québec et Montréal, who's online for 5 minutes.
Merci.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen, members of the committee, I am pleased to share my thoughts on the climate crisis and Canada's energy sector. My 11 years of experience as a university professor and researcher, particularly in the mitigation of greenhouse gas emissions, inform my viewpoint. The greenhouse gas emissions generated by economic activities are in fact a classic problem of negative externality where consumers and producers do not have private economic incentives to consider the impact of their emissions on the climate. Economic efficiency can be restored by introducing emissions pricing, incentivizing consumers to reduce their demand for emission-intensive products, and also producers to change their production processes and product mix. Obviously, there are imperatives other than economic ones that can lead individuals and organizations to act on their greenhouse gas emissions. There are moral, reputational, image-related, and other considerations that come into play. In the corporate world, these other considerations can take the form of various standards, criteria, or certifications. ESG criteria, environmental, social, and governance criteria are one good example of this. In the past, we spoke about the triple bottom line to represent the Sustainable Development Goals implemented in a corporate setting. Nonetheless, recent comments by Mr. Kruger, Suncor CEO, illustrate that economic issues, including profitability, remain at the centre of Canadian companies' decisions, including those in the energy sector. That is why, in my view, it is fundamental to maintain economic incentives to reduce greenhouse gas emissions if Canada is to meet its international commitments. These economic incentives take a variety of forms, including taxes and subsidies. Taxes and subsidies have different fiscal implications for governments, but also different specificities in the case of non-renewable natural resources such as oil and natural gas. Indeed, as policies to combat climate change generally increase over time, they can represent a more difficult competitive environment for the operators of fossil resources or even an implicit threat of expropriation. In response to these phased policies, operators may choose to accelerate their fossil fuel extraction while there is still time to do so. This accelerated extraction also leads to an acceleration of greenhouse gas emissions and therefore climate change. This phenomenon, called the green paradox, does not occur equally in all situations. It is more pronounced when energy transition policies are based on regulatory approaches and subsidies. Conversely, when policies are based on pricing approaches, the possibilities of a green paradox emerging are much lower or even non-existent. It should be noted that emissions cap and trade systems such as the one in Quebec, which allow emission rights to be banked but not borrowed, helps to reduce the green paradox phenomenon. Indeed, this mechanism encourages emitters to reduce their emissions beyond the target set by governments at the start of policies in order to have greater flexibility as policies become more restrictive. I'd like to point out that the green paradox phenomenon is not significant enough to call into question the incrementalism of policies to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. They need to give time to technological innovations, supply chain reorganizations, replacements of durable goods, changes in consumption habits, and others, militate in favour of policies that gradually become more restrictive. The long-term investments that businesses and households need to make in order to adapt effectively to these policies also argue in favour of early announcements with clearly defined long-term objectives. These elements reinforce the preponderance of carbon pricing policies in mitigating greenhouse gas emissions. These allow for both a gradual approach with long-term goals while minimising the risks of a green paradox. The qualities of carbon pricing policies should be borne in mind in the inflationary environment from which we have not yet emerged. It may be tempting to substitute subsidy policies, regulatory policies, and even a total absence of policies in an effort to reduce the burden on consumers. I believe it would be better to provide one-time, one-off support to consumers while companies adjust to new low-carbon production methods and consumers change some of their habits and replace some of their durable goods. Ultimately, carbon pricing policies will enable a more efficient transition where corporate production is greener and consumers have more affordable products from which they can choose. Thank you for your attention, and I look forward to taking your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Seguin. We'll now move to Mr. John Valiant, journalist and author, for 5 minutes.
Thanks. Thank you very much. I'm an independent journalist and author from Vancouver. My work is evidence-based and fact-based. There are about 1,000 endnotes, footnotes, and citations in this book. Fire Weather is currently a bestseller and finalist for national prizes in 3 different countries, and I think it's because the topic, how our appetite for petroleum has supercharged the atmosphere, endangering us all, resonates with people, especially after this terrible summer of CO2-driven heat and fire. Before I get into that, I want to say how honored I am to be here. I come in good faith as a proud Canadian who loves this country and who's grateful for the extraordinary gifts petroleum has given us. Canada and the oil industry are about the same age, and we've both come a long way in a short time. And so, unfortunately, has our climate. When Fort McMurray caught fire in May 2016, I was as shocked as anyone. Winter was barely over. Local lakes were still frozen, and yet the temperature in northern Alberta hit 33 Celsius. More disturbing was the relative humidity, 11%. You know where 11% humidity is normal? Death Valley, in July. When you transpose the climate of the hottest, driest place in North America to the Canadian boreal forest, a famously flammable ecosystem, otherworldly things are going to happen, and they did. Quick science lesson. Radiant heat, the heat that tells you not to touch the candle flame, travels at the speed of light. On May 3rd, 2016, the radiant heat coming off the Fort McMurray fire, 10 kilometers wide with 100-meter flames, was 500 Celsius. That's hotter than Venus. That was Fort McMurray on May 3rd, May 4th, and day after day after day after that. That was also this summer in BC, Alberta, Quebec, and the Northwest Territories. Firefighters in Fort Mac described houses burning to the basement in 5 minutes. I thought they were exaggerating. They weren't. I talked to physicists. That's what fire can do at 500 Celsius. As a result, the firefighting operation became a life-saving operation because there was no time to do anything else. What surprises everyone about 21st century fire is how fast it moves. Talk to anyone in Slave Lake or Fort Mac or Kelowna or Enterprise, Northwest Territories. There was a plume over there, and now I'm running for my life. This is happening because the hotter and drier the air and the forest, the faster and more explosive the fire. Climate science isn't rocket science. By the 1770s, the greenhouse effect was understood in principle. By the 1850s, the heat-retaining characteristics of CO2 had been identified. By the 1890s, scientists were considering the possibility that industrial CO2 could alter Earth's climate. By the 1930s, evidence of warming was observed in global temperature records. By the 1950s, mass spectrometers could measure CO2 in parts per million, hence the famous Keeling curve. By the 1970s, Exxon, Rich Kruger's old company, was doing cutting-edge climate science. Internal memos reveal surgically accurate predictions regarding the relationship between increasing CO2 and the climate disruption we are now experiencing. Exxon knew, and so did Suncor. And then, in 1989, they turned their backs on their own science, and they did it because they cared about the money more. They did it because they know the oil industry is, in essence, a fire industry, which means it's a CO2 industry, which means it's a climate-changing industry. This is basic chemistry and physics, and we cannot deny or gaslight or greenwash that fact away. To be clear, oil is a 19th century fuel. The internal combustion engine was prototyped in 1860. Why on earth are we still using it? 200,000 Canadians were driven from their homes by wildfires this summer. Tens of millions of North Americans were shrouded in toxic smoke. The Amazon River is drying up. If we don't reduce emissions now, we're going to make this planet uninhabitable. Canada's leadership matters here. Our survival depends on it. And here's the upside. When it comes to renewable energy potential, Canada really is a superpower. Right now, we are perfectly poised to embrace the greatest, greenest energy opportunity the world has ever known. So who's stopping us? Thank you.
Right on 5 minutes. Thank you, Mr. Valiant. We'll now go to Mark Cameron, Vice President, External Relations from the Pathways Alliance. You have 5 minutes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I'm pleased to be here on behalf of the Pathways Alliance today. Pathways represents Canada's 6 largest oil sands companies. That includes Suncor, who spoke here earlier this morning, as well as Canadian Natural, Cenovus, ConocoPhillips Canada, Imperial, and MEG Energy. Collectively, our 6 companies operate 95% of the oil sands production in Canada, which is the majority of Canada's total oil and gas production. Our companies contribute tens of billions to Canadian GDP and to federal and provincial revenues and royalties and employ tens of thousands of Canadians. But we recognize that we are a major contributor to greenhouse gas emissions and to the problem of climate change. Oil sands operations emit about 80 megatons of CO2 equivalent per year, which is about 11% of Canada's total GHG emissions. We are a significant contributor to Canada's emissions challenge, and therefore we have to be part of the solution. That's why in 2021, our 6 companies came together and decided that we had to jointly tackle the challenge of emissions reduction. All Pathways companies have a goal of net zero emissions from oil sands operations, that is, eliminating all Scope 1 and 2 emissions by 2050. And in the short term, we have a plan to reduce emissions by 22 megatons between now and 2030, starting with our foundational project, a carbon capture and storage network that will be the largest in Canada and one of the largest in the world. This project will capture carbon from 16 different oil sands sites, 14 of which will be connected by a 400-kilometer-long pipeline going from Fort McMurray to the south of Cold Lake in northeastern Alberta, where CO2 will be sequestered underground in deep saline aquifers. This project will initially store 14 megatons per year of carbon, which could be expanded to 40 to 50 megatons per year as additional capture is added in the 2030s and 2040s. Our foundational project will add 16 billion to Canada's GDP and create over 100,000 person-years of labor during the construction phase from now to 2030. So this project would not only be a major emissions reduction, it would also be a huge economic driver for Alberta and Canada. We're pursuing other technologies, from electricity cogeneration, energy efficiency, and the use of solvents in the extraction process, to newer technologies like the use of hydrogen as a fuel source, small modular nuclear reactors, and eventually direct air capture to remove CO2 directly from the atmosphere. We'll need all these levers if we're going to meet our goal of net zero operations by 2050. While CCS is now proven technology, we have 4 major CCS projects in Canada already. It is costly technology. To be competitive, we'll need federal and provincial governments to co-invest with industry in this important opportunity. We've had strong dialogue with both levels of government and also with 26 First Nations and Métis communities in our project region. Both the federal and Alberta governments have helped support the project. The investment tax credit for carbon capture and storage announced by the federal government 2 years ago will be essential to be building these projects, as will be a recently announced Alberta sequestration incentive. We're also pleased that the federal government has announced that they're exploring carbon contracts for difference as a mechanism to help shore up Canada's industrial carbon price, which would help support the ongoing operations of carbon capture. These are great proposals, but none of these measures are currently in place. Other jurisdictions, such as the United States with the Inflation Reduction Act, and also the United Kingdom, Norway, the Netherlands, and others, have introduced incentives for carbon capture that are actually much more generous than what Canada and Alberta have in place currently. And when Canadian companies are competing for capital investment globally, we need to be able to demonstrate that we have as attractive as possible an environment for carbon capture and other new technologies. The federal, Ontario, and Quebec governments have made the decision to match the Inflation Reduction Act when it comes to battery technology for electric vehicles. We think that carbon capture, a technology where Canada is already a global leader and probably the single biggest emissions reduction opportunity Canada has, needs similar treatment. With the right combination of the federal ITC or other incentives, an Alberta incentive, and carbon contracts for difference and other measures, we think Canada can compete with anyone in the world. And with that, I'm pleased to answer any of your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cameron, for your testimony. We'll now go to Adam Waterous, Chief Executive Officer from the Waterous Energy Fund, who's online. You have 5 minutes, sir.
Thank you and good day, and thank you for the invitation to speak with you. Over the last 8 years, my family and I have founded 3 projects in an effort to try and do our part to try to help position Canada as the North American leader in addressing the climate change challenge and fighting the energy poverty emergency. The first project, which we founded in 2015, is the Calgary Airport Banff Rail, or CABRA project, which will be North America's first hydrogen-powered, zero-emissions passenger rail system and the first entirely new intermunicipal dedicated track passenger rail system ever built in Canada. As background, my wife, Jan, and I have lived in Banff for the last 26 years and grew increasingly concerned about the impact that personal vehicles were having on Banff National Park. Returning passenger rail to Banff was the obvious transformative solution, but government was not in a position to develop it, so my wife and I decided to lean in and see if the private sector could create a reliable, high-frequency system that would run on a new dedicated track we would build within the CPKC rail corridor. To advance the project, we first worked with CPKC to lease the Banff train station and then enter into an MOU to lease the space within the corridor to build the track. We structured the project as a public-private partnership and brought in as our development partner the infrastructure arm of CDPQ. We have secured the support of the 4 mayors of the municipalities along the route. The federal government, through the Canada Infrastructure Bank, has been a wonderful partner and agreed to fund 50% of the capital cost. We are currently collaborating with the Alberta provincial government on a study to optimize the rail connection at the airport. If all goes according to plan, we hope to begin construction within 24 months and with a 3-year build so CABRA can be in service in late 2028. The second project is 3 years ago, we started the Banff National Park Net Zero 2035, an initiative to make Banff North America's first net zero emissions community. We created the initiative as a result of Jan and I working with the Transition Accelerator, determined that the transportation emissions by visitors and residents in Banff National Park are 105,000 metric tons each year, by far the largest of any national park in the world. For perspective, compared to Zion National Park, the U.S. national park that most closely resembles Banff National Park in visitation, Banff has 63 times the per visitor transportation emissions. It was clear that Parks Canada on its own was not able to reduce the impact of the personal vehicle. We saw the opportunity to transform Banff National Park from worst to first through the collaboration of leaders from business, academia, and government. The Banff National Park Net Zero 2035 initiative short-term priorities include advancing such projects as pedestrian-only zones within the town and replacing personal vehicles to popular points of interest in the park with shuttle-only system. A medium-term priority is converting Banff's space heating needs to hydrogen using innovative technology to convert natural gas to hydrogen at a community-level facility. As we like to say, if Banff can't become net zero by 2035, Toronto doesn't stand a chance by 2050. The third project is in 2017, we founded Strathcona Resources, which will likely be one of the first oil companies in North America to deploy carbon capture and storage at scale. By way of background, Strathcona was created by Waterous Energy Fund, a private equity investment business that has, among other professionals, our 3 sons and I. We have grown the business over the last 6.5 years into Canada's 5th largest oil company. Strathcona's business plan, which will help fight the energy poverty emergency, is to organically grow production over the next 8 years from 185,000 barrels a day to 325,000 barrels a day. Strathcona has principally grown today by consolidating 3 core areas by acquiring 10 smaller subscale business into a single operating entity. Each of these smaller entities lack the financial capacity to fund the necessary capital investments required to be able to reduce CO2 emissions. Strathcona's thermal assets, which currently produce 90,000 barrels a day, are located in southern Alberta and Saskatchewan, which provides it the opportunity to sequester its CO2 directly in reservoirs beneath its facilities. Unlike the oil sands producers in Athabasca, who have to build a CO2 pipe to southern Alberta. Strathcona has the potential of reducing its emissions through CCS by 2030 by 60% and ultimately reduce them up to 90%. Strathcona has already taken the first regulatory steps in implementing CCS, receiving some of the first permissions to drill test sequestration wells in both Alberta and Saskatchewan. Strathcona's full implementation of CCS is waiting for a finalized fiscal regime from the federal and provincial governments. I'd like to take your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Waterous, for your testimony. We will now move to our first round of questions with Ms. Stubbs.
Sorry, Chair.
Yes.
It's very likely we're going to have votes, so I would request that maybe we have a truncated round so that everyone gets a chance to ask questions of their witnesses. So I'm suggesting maybe 2.5 if everyone agreed, because otherwise we will be here and we may get cut off.
Well, the bells are ringing. So,
Damn
Mr.
liberals.
Angus, your timing was impeccable to take the floor to make that, I guess,
Could we ask for unanimous consent to do one truncated round while we have our witnesses here? And
colleagues, would you like to do 2 minutes each, 2.5 minutes each, one round? Would that work for everybody? Do we have unanimous consent?
We do, but Chair, I might also suggest then that we provide the opportunity to welcome these witnesses back so that they can have full opportunities to speak, since the meeting did start late and now it's being interfered with by bells and a vote.
The only challenge we have is this was the only date we had for this study. If that is the committee's will, at a future committee business meeting, we can raise that and have a conversation if it's the will of committee.
Great.
Mr. Angus.
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting thing, and I want to thank my colleague for always being super reasonable, and her and I get along famously on almost all things except policy.
Okay, so we have unanimous consent. We'll give 2.5 minutes to every party, so it's one question each, and we will end the meeting after that. Okay, Ms. Stubbs, the floor is yours for 2.5 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. So unfortunately, I do hope that we'll be able to have witnesses called back, because now I must just speak to the motion that I did put on notice. I'm going to do that now. And what I hope is that Adam Watrous at some point today or in the future will be able to expand on the importance of oil and gas to lift all Canadians as well as vulnerable people right around the world out of energy poverty and have higher standards of living and quality of life. I'd also mention to Mr. Valiant, of course, he talked at length in a region that I'm from, and my riding was the front lines on helping evacuees come from Fort McMurray. Of course, the investigators did note about that fire, that it was caused by a combination of human activity related to recreational vehicles, power lines, arson, and some other human-caused factors. So hopefully that will be able to be expanded later on for a fact-based conversation about that particular fire, which impacted the communities, the people, and the Indigenous people that I represent. So at this time, I just want to speak to the motion that I think needs to urgently become the absolute top priority for this committee, which is that the Supreme Court on Friday ruled that Bill C-69, which has been in law for half a decade and was supported by the Liberals and the NDP by the time it left the House of Commons, where it faced opposition from all provinces and all territories, either outright opposed to it or calling for major overhauls. To that end, I just want to speak to the motion that I did put on notice, which said the committee recognized that Bill C-69
Ms. Stubbs,
has been ruled unconstitutional
the
by
motion,
the Supreme
is that the
Court of
motion you
Canada.
brought forward this morning?
No, I'm speaking to the one that you did get notice for on Friday. Has been ruled unconstitutional by the Supreme Court of Canada in a 5-2 decision that the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court said Parliament has to, quote, act within the enduring division of powers framework laid out in the Constitution, and that all provinces and territories called for major changes to Bill C-69 and were ignored. It's the opinion of this committee that Bill C-69 should be repealed and report that finding to the House in order for the House to vote on the viability of the bill given the Supreme Court's majority ruling. This is extremely important, of course, because the judgment said that Bill C-69 invites the federal government to make decisions where it has no jurisdiction, requires assessment of projects with little or no possibility of federal effects to have a federal review, represents an unconstitutional arrogation of power by Parliament, that the decision maker gets practically untrammeled power to regulate projects, whether Parliament has jurisdiction to regulate or not. That the purposes of the IA are considerably broader than what...
Ms. Stubbs, we're going into debate now.
I'm not debating. I'm actually giving the rationale for the further discussion.
Debating the rationale on the motion.
We'll move on the motion.
The only issue is the motion that you've presented was not provided in time to the clerk. It was provided this morning, so it can't be moved today at this meeting unless we have unanimous consent. Because of the timing requirements of this committee, that we need 2 sleeps, 2 days notice. The notice was provided to the clerk, not in accordance with what we have on the committee, and so it was registered today and sent out this morning to committee members.
That's another one I'll speak
If
at
there's,
length to later.
on this specific motion, we cannot move the motion today unless you have unanimous consent of committee members.
Well, given
because
that
of
I would anticipate every elected member of this committee would see the utter indictment by the Supreme Court of Bill
But-
C-69, which has been in place as law for
Ms.
5
Steve,
years.
that's
I
debate.
absolutely imagine that members are going to give us unanimous consent
Well,
to prioritize this topic.
Mr. Angus.
I vote to adjourn debate. It doesn't fit. It's not in order, so I vote to adjourn so we can hear from our witnesses, some of who traveled a great distance.
Mr. Angus, we need unanimous consent prior to adjourning for debate. The clerk, can I get? The motion is not up for debate yet because we do not have unanimous consent to debate the motion. Yeah. Okay, so I will go to the floor. Do we have unanimous consent? No, I do not see that we have unanimous consent. So, Ms. Stubbs, your time is up for your questions.
Thank you,
We
Chair.
will go to the next round of questions to Ms. Lapointe.
Thank you, Chair. My question is to Mr. Veillant. I think we can all agree that globally, this past summer was undeniably an extreme confirmation of the damage of climate change. On the one hand, we have these horrific natural disasters playing out, and with it comes a sense of urgency to make great changes. And on the other hand, we have families, communities, and towns that are currently reliant on an energy source we know is dangerous to the planet. What do you recommend to the members of this committee, to us as legislators, in balancing these two opposing realities that we have?
Yeah, thanks for that question. That's the nut that we have to crack together. I think what we need, first of all, is a good faith recognition from the fossil fuel industry that the fossil fuel industry is fundamentally lethal to the planet's stability as we know it. So if you look at every single metric of climate distress, whether it's Antarctic ice, whether it's glacial melt, whether it's the state of sea surface temperature, which is several degrees above normal all over the world right now. You have massive coral die-off. You have literally dolphins dying of heat in the Amazon River as it evaporates. So we are in a crisis now. Ecosystems are literally collapsing around us. That affects all of us. We are part of the ecosystem. And that is something that I think the fossil fuel industry and really the financial industry has difficulty reconciling with. And that we are actually beholden to laws greater than the laws of demand and supply. We're actually beholden to the laws of physics and chemistry. And that is humbling. But we have to focus on that. And right now, what I hear for the past hour and a half is this kind of this negotiation that wants to leave the climate impacts, that leaves the physics and chemistry that govern our lives out of it, and really just focus on maintaining the status quo with a few little tweaks, and that won't do it. So we have to embrace wholeheartedly a transition to reduced carbon immediately.
Time's up. Thank you. 2.5 minutes for Monsieur Smart.
Quickly, Mr. Séguin, I've understood the principle of the green paradox, but I've got a question in another direction for you. I've seen the will of the Pathways Alliance to put $24 billion in investments to reduce its carbon intensity in the fossil fuel sector by 2050. Do you think that this will have an impact on the price at the pump for you? It's quite probable. It's difficult to imagine a situation where investors don't try to get their investments back by getting some revenue from this product that they're working with. So we have to try and see the different decisions that will be taken and the volume of demand, for example, for these products coming from the oil and gas sector, given the extra costs that will be generated as a result of the carbon capture and storage technologies to be implemented. Thank you for that. So if someone is against the clean fuel regulations and sees it as a tax, even if it's not a tax and because it's going to bring extra cost, then apparently they would also be against these carbon capture technologies because that's also going to bring with it an extra cost. Do you agree with me? Yes, more or less. And the emphasis on carbon capture technology seems to be leaning more on subsidies from the government. So when we look at the overall framework of subsidies that will be given by the government for carbon capture and storage, it has to come from the government's coffers, which is funded by taxes. So costs will have to be borne by someone at some point. There's no other way out of this. And very quickly, turn to Mr. Cameron. Do you agree with the clean fuel regulations?
Clean fuel regulations would require the government to contract for 26 megatons of emissions reductions by 2030 from different sources, from biofuels, from all kinds of different sources that are decarbonizing the fuel supply. Carbon capture is only one of those technologies, and in fact, the government in Canada Gazette 2 eliminated the ability for any carbon capture that was used for export to receive those supports. So really, it would only be a small percentage of the carbon capture that is performed by Pathways that would be eligible for support under the clean fuel regulation. Oil and gas is a globally traded commodity. We don't set the price of oil. The price is set globally, and so we don't get back the costs that we spend for environmental measures.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Smart. Mr. Angus for 2.5 minutes to finish this up.
Thank you. Thanks to our guests. Mr. Valiant, I read Fire Weather, and I must say I haven't been as frightened in almost my whole life in reading a book. I live in the boreal forest, and I thought I knew fire. You write about the heroism of the people in the Slave Lake fire at Fort Mac who literally put themselves on the line to get people out and keep them safe. Yet they were going, and you mentioned the Chisholm fire that had the radiant capacity of a nuclear bomb. It is something I can't even begin to imagine. I know that Danielle Smith and my Conservative colleagues are always blaming arson. That level of arson would only be possible from a level of corporate arson. Would you not agree? And I just want to ask this because you mentioned the fact that the fossil fuel industry is a fire-creating industry because that's fundamental to its production. So I'd like to ask you, you heard Mr. Kruger today. Mr. Kruger seemed really surprised as a former vice president of Exxon that there were thousands and thousands of documents that would have been generated on his watch about the arson power of his industry. Could you reflect on what you heard and what you think we need to do as legislators?
Yeah, I think the incredible work that Exxon did in the 70s and early 80s on climate science, which was absolutely cutting edge, creates enormous dissonance for people in the petroleum industry now because it was stated, it was shared, it was known, and then it was consciously, systematically disavowed and undermined. And we are still living in that era of greenwashing and gaslighting and disavowal, and it's causing enormous harm. And so it really doesn't matter whether the fire starts from an ATV or from an arsonist when the climate has been altered to the point that it holds heat and reflects heat that much more powerfully. So I could throw a match on the forest in the 1980s, I might light the forest up, but I'm not going to get 500 Celsius temperatures. I'm not going to get a firestorm. I'm not going to get a fire tornado like they had in Redding, California, an EF3 fire tornado. There are photographs in the book if you want to see what that does. It is like a nuclear, it looked like Nagasaki when I walked that ground. So that's what's different. And we have to realize that we, as humans, we make a difference. And the fossil fuel industry, which is a fire industry, which is a CO2 industry, has made a difference in our climate.
Thank you, Mr. Valiant, for your testimony. Colleagues, thank you so much for all the witnesses for joining us today at the Standing Committee on Natural Resources, and I hope to see you all again. Have a great day. Meeting adjourned.